In this short screencast, I want to talk to you about the kind of precedents for behavioural economics, and really the precedents for the development of behavioural economics lie in some of the limitations of neoclassical economics and its ability to identify and model all the determinants of demand for sport. So we should be at a stage now, I think, after the number of weeks that we've gone through, that you're aware that sport has some properties which make it different than many other consumer goods or services. And I just want to reflect on some of these in terms of issues this creates in applying neoclassical determinants. And if we think of neoclassical theory being based on rational choice theory, then I want to kind of look at how some of the properties of sport limit the applicability of a rational framework to consumer decision making. And if you've read the preamble to this week's workbook, then I've covered some of these issues during that preamble, but we'll just restate them here and maybe expand on some of those things. I've put on the slide here that in week 1, but as I read it now I realise it was in week 2 of the lecture series. We saw that sport could be classified as a non-durable consumption good, a durable consumption good, and a capital good. So a non-durable consumption good is something where the utility or the benefit or the pleasure, the satisfaction is felt at the time of consumption. So eating a meal gives us kind of immediate gratification. In the same way, spectator sport and watching gives us immediate satisfaction and gratification, presuming our team is performing well and it's an enjoyable game. And also playing sport in the moment gives individuals taking part satisfaction and enjoyment from playing the game. However, sport also kind of demonstrates some characteristics of a durable consumption good. So a durable consumption good is one that continues to deliver benefits after initial purchase or consumption. So a consumer durable might be a television, a computer, a laptop, a car, something that we would expect to give service and benefits over a considerable amount of time. Now, sport can help us improve things like health if we participate frequently over a period of time. So sport has benefits from consumption and satisfaction of the consumption at the time of it taking place, but also over the longer term it can build up health benefits as well. So we can derive utility from improved health and improved well-being. So sport has some characteristics of a durable consumption good. And as well as that, some people might be participating in sport not for any enjoyment at all, but because it's a way of investing in themselves to get on, to earn more money. And we looked in the week 2 lecture at the salaries of people who played sport compared to people who didn't play sport, and we looked in particular at students who had degrees and who played sport, and students who had degrees and didn't play sport, and saw the difference between their earnings after graduation. So in these grounds, people's involvement in sports can have some aspects of being a capital good, i.e. it's an investment that we make into ourselves. So this means that sport is not just a consumption good, which is consumed for utility at that given point in time. It's also an investment good. So durable consumption goods, and in the case of health and participation, there's an investment there. A capital good, there's an investment in taking part in sport because it might keep you fitter and healthier, enable you to earn more money, be more productive in the labour market. So for some people, and for many people, sport is not just a kind of consumption good, it's a durable consumption good and an investment good. And the issue is that the future of such investments is uncertain. There's a degree of uncertainty about the return on, how many more years of good health might I get if I take part in sport regularly? How much might my salary increase if I take part in sport and I'm more healthy and I'm therefore more productive in the labour market for a longer period of time? There are uncertainties about these questions which are difficult to predict for consumers, so they have difficulty in making rational choices. So the nature of sports goods quite often means that a kind of this rational theory framework doesn't hold up so well, and this difficulty for consumers in making rational choices also for economists and managers makes sport more unpredictable and difficult to understand and forecast. So the nature of sport creates some problems which make it inherently difficult to forecast what an individual's behaviour is going to be and what a group of individuals' behaviour is going to be. So we kind of highlighted in the previous slide some of these issues. I just want to talk about them in a little bit more detail. So we've said that basically, because of the nature of sports goods, consumers face difficulties in making rational decisions when it comes to sport. And the problem is that neoclassical economics considers and assumes that consumers are knowledgeable and can make rational choices. So they have cognitive capability and they have perfect information and they have time, in real time, to be able to consider all these options and make a rational choice which will deliver optimal benefits for them. Okay. And the complicated nature of sport means that making rational decisions is difficult because of the reality of imperfect information and lack of cognitive ability to process all this information. So in the workbook at the beginning, we discussed that this actually is related to a concept called bounded rationality. So individuals don't have perfect information, don't have the ability to process all this information. There can be information overload, and they can't make decisions in a timely fashion. There's a time pressure when faced with all these choices and decisions to make. So they might indulge in what's called satisficing behaviour. So that mixture between, satisfactory and sufficing, it will do. So they're not necessarily optimal decisions. They are suboptimal decisions, right? So, so the issue is that although participants have got to decide whether satisfaction gained from taking part is greater than the price they have to pay, it's not just simply a kind of price of the good, price of other goods and income, which are determinants of demand. There are other factors which complicate this issue because of the nature of sports goods. Okay. It's worth also saying that during this lecture, when I'm talking about sport, I'm talking more about participation sport. So some of these issues in behavioural economics applies more to decisions to participate in sport than it does to spectate and watch elite sport performance, for example. So we saw that some of the benefit of taking part in sport is not accrued immediately, and the decision to participate therefore depends to some extent on how we value today satisfactions and benefits that will be obtained in the future. Right? And additionally, a person might participate now even if there's no present or future satisfaction. They participate purely as an investment that will yield a return. So there are some people who don't enjoy running, who don't enjoy exercise. It's a chore. There is no leisure. There's no kind of satisfaction there for them. It is purely a kind of investment decision that they hope will yield additional years life, additional years quality of life, or possibly additional years ability to work. And participation in sport usually gives aspects of all of these benefits, right? But the relative weight of each will depend substantially on the individual's tastes and preferences, right? So, as an individual taking part in sport, I do it because I enjoy it. I know that it's good and healthy for me, and I know that through being healthy, I'm less likely to have to take time off work, which could harm my income. So I do all that. But for me, my weightings of how much is this about enjoyment of it in the minute, how much is it about maintaining my health, and how much is it about being able to work in the future, the weightings that I might give to that might be very different to the weightings you would give to it. So this is coming back to this issue of kind of preferences and tastes. So my preferences, my tastes in sports, my reasons, my motivations might be different for yours. And typically, as you get older, sport is done less perhaps for kind of enjoyment and the thrill of competition, although it can still be there, than it is about maintaining health and health into later life and being able to keep active in later life. So I might be looking at my participation now and thinking, in my retirement, I still want to be active and able to do things. So I'm investing in that future. That might be too far away in the future for you to actually think about. So your weighting might be different. Now, to observe that externally, as economists try to do, and to impose a rationality on that is a very difficult thing to actually do. And there is a limitation in that in terms of neoclassical economics, which means that behavioural economics, which is grounded in psychology, is more important. So in the next screencast, and this week's screencasts are going to be substantially shorter than we have looked at in previous weeks, what we're going to look at is, given the neoclassical limitations that we've just talked about, what role is there for behavioural economics in understanding demand for sport and determinants of demand for sport. And in particular, we're going to look at the work of Igor Skitowski, who's been very influential in this field of behavioural economics, especially as it applies to sport.